finally, nice to see you.
Welcome everybody to this second to last council meeting of our term, of this council's term, meeting of the 14th of August 2025. Let me just comment that any seeming sartorial coordination going on here into the maroon team and the green team is purely accidental. It's not a sign of a split council or anything like that at the last minute. So let me ask Councillor O'Brien to open with the karakia, please.
Inui tata, haka tohi atu tohi anuku, ka tohi atu tohi arangi, I tupu I huko ngā pū, ngā wea, ngā more, ngā pū ki ngā wānanga nā tauira. A tēnei te kimi nore te rapu noi te taketake I te ahuru no nā rangi tūhāha. Whakaia ki arite, ohi, wero, tau mai te Māori, haumi e, hui e, tae ki e, kia ora tata.
Thank you. Meeting notices. Live streaming, welcome councillors, staff and members of the public, and welcome to Councillor Puller who's attending online. Council and Standing Committee meetings are live streamed on the Council's website and YouTube channel. Public gallery attendees' presence implies your consent to being broadcast. Further information about live streaming protocols can be found on Council's website. Health and safety notices. In case of an emergency, please follow the building wardens to the nearest exit. The meeting point is across the road at Peace Park, just behind me. And bathroom facilities are located opposite the Chambers foyer entrance. Apologies, I have none registered. As I said, Councillor Puller's online. Acknowledgements or tributes, does anybody have any? Councillor Isles.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yesterday, Council and more directly the Mayor received an official delegation from students from Jiangxi province in China. The delegation, as I said, was made up of 50 school pupils and accompanying teachers. They are spending the week in the Eastern Bay. The visit came about basically through a sub-regional connection that was established back in 2019 with the Kawerau District Council and the Oporiki District Council and Whakatane. And Simon Appleton, who has been very active in keeping this relationship going, has organised these delegations to come out, experience Kiwi culture, and at the same time, yesterday, as I said, they were made very welcome. We shared our culture on our side of the table, they shared theirs, and later joined them with an afternoon tea in the side room. They were then treated to a barbecue in the afternoon. So again, good to see the exchange going on and good to see the cultural exchange, especially with the school children of our district. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor James.
Yeah, I've got two acknowledgements I'd like to make. One of them is the passing of Mick Orchard, town icon for most of his life and a previous owner of Motahora, Whale Island. So, and the other acknowledgement is I think we need to acknowledge Hayden Wild's achievement in the T100 race in London on over the weekend, and that he won by a big margin after recuperating from a serious cycling accident. So good to see Whakatane right up there, and then you've got the other guy that won Yukon, the longest kayak race in the world. So all from little Whakatane.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Puller, do you have an acknowledgement?
Yes, I have a couple, if I may, Your Worship.
Sure.
Firstly, I'd like to pay tribute to my wife, Mary, who's put up with me for 54 years today. It's been fun. Had a few red ears, but anyway, we're still going. The second one is I'd like to congratulate those councillors that have been elected unopposed. It just goes to show that as council, the punters think we're doing the right thing. So well done. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. No further acknowledgements? Oh.
I think too we should also just acknowledge the passing of Daryl Owens, Tony Owens' husband. She's been on our commercial advisory board.
Thank you, councillor. Well, if there are no further acknowledgements, does any member have any conflicts of interest related to the business we're about to conduct here today? None? Thank you. Public participation, there is none. And we're at section 7, page 11 of the agenda, confirmation of minutes, that we're talking about the minutes of the Whakatane District Extraordinary Council meeting of the 9th of April and the Whakatane District Council meeting of the 26th of June. Does anyone have any observations or corrections they want made to those minutes? Before I ask for a mover and a seconder, can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Boynton and Councillor Isles. All those in favour? Aye. Thank you. Standing committee minutes and recommendations to council. So there's a package of meeting minutes there that need to be received. They are the Finance and Performance Committee meeting of the 15th of May, the Chief Executive Performance and Support Committee of the 20th of May, the Risk and Assurance meeting of the 12th of June, the Living Together Committee meeting of the 19th of June, and the Infrastructure and Planning Committee meeting of the 24th of July. Does anybody have any observations or corrections that need to be noted for those minutes? If not, can I please have a mover and a seconder for that package? Moved, Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor O'Brien. All those in favour? Aye. Thank you. Now, we've got a bunch of recommendations from the Infrastructure and Planning Committee meetings. The first one, we're at section 8.2, page 13 to 15 of the agenda. The recommendation relates to the adoption of the district speed limit changes. We've been through this in committee, so I presume there's not going to be a lot of changes, but does anybody have any questions of clarification on that? If not, question?
Just in the speed, the Thornton Road, East Bank Road, intersections, proposed to go from 100 to 70. I missed that part of the discussion, but was it unanimous to change it to 70 all the way? Or is that just over at the bridge?
Oh, I can't.
No, why don't go down number 5, Thornton Road, from State Highway 30 to Blueberry Corner. 100 down to 80k all the way. Was that the... Yeah? Okay.
Yeah, my recall of this, that was a split vote within council, but I think there was majority support.
Okay. No, thank you.
Can I just
Yes,
say,
sure.
Yes, but there were 2 people not present, so the vote today could go a different way if it was put.
Okay, well, I'd be happy to have another vote on it.
I had the opportunity to speak to the roading police sergeant in charge of all the guys that do policing on speed limits, and he was very pleased that the Thornton Bridge would go down to 70. It's a known accident site. It's a known site where there's poor visibility. He was also pleased with the rest of the limits we'd done, especially around the Oyster Farm area. So I'll be voting yes for all of those, given consideration the police agree with them. Thank you.
Sure. So just to clarify, do we want to have a revote of item number 5 on that list? Okay, I can't actually remember what I voted.
Wouldn't the vote go that there's a recommendation on the table, so that has to be put, so we either vote yes or no, and then someone can put a amendment, or rather than us just start to re-talk the whole thing out?
Yeah. Well, can I have a mover and a seconder that particular item on that table be reconsidered? Sure.
It was just to get clarity around the speed number Number 5, it's number 5 again, because I noticed that some of the public discussion was around believing that the speed limit went down up to Blueberry Corner and that all that windy bits went back up to 100. So I just wanted clarity on that, because there was concerns on whether that's how it is.
There's certainly possibilities to consider alternatives to what is in the table here. That's a possibility if we want to shorten that distance, and there's agreement for that. This is just reflective of the minutes that were taken at that meeting.
Okay. No, it was just to get clarity, because there's some confusion, because they believe that it's slow from the turn-off going up to Blueberry Corner, and then all of a sudden the speed goes back up on the most dangerous part. So it was just trying to get that clear for the public.
I think
That's not the case, is that
I think
right?
you find that 462 Thornton Road is the second house past on the Thornton side of the Blueberry Corners, if you look on the maps.
So it covers the windy bit. Thank you. Just wanted that clarified.
Okay, well then, can I have a mover and a seconder that item number 5 on that table be reconsidered and revoted on? Councillor James moves it, Councillor Jukes seconds it. Any discussion on that?
Well, so the motion is that that item be reconsidered.
For speed reduction?
So if we vote yes, we'll then have a discussion about that item and then vote on that item.
And only on that item, yeah, because it seems that we're all okay with all the rest.
Okay, all right.
So Charisse, you want to read that? You want Charisse to read out the motion?
I'm just being clear that we're just voting to reconsider it, not to change it at this stage.
Well, I think we're voting on whether we accept the speed reduction or not. That's my understanding of it.
That's not the motion that I just moved.
Oh, okay, well. Okay, well, Charisse says that we'll vote on the entirety minus 5, and we'll just put 5 up for reconsideration.
Okay.
So are we all okay with the table with the exception of 5 at the moment? And it was, the mover and the seconder was the same?
Yep.
So all those in favour?
Aye.
Against? I'm actually, well, I'll leave it, because I'm voting at the last bit, but anyway. Yeah, so item 5, are we now going to consider accepting that, or we would just want to reconsider it? Yeah, if you want to speak to it, yeah.
Well, I'd like to, I wonder whether it should be amended to maybe 80 k's from Red Barn round to 462 Thornton Road. That one section, the windy section.
So you're proposing the motion to modify that to include that whole section, that section?
Just that section, yeah, not from State Highway 30, that section.
From the Red Barn to 462 Thornton Road?
Yeah.
He wants an amendment.
Basically from, sorry, Joe, it's following on from what Tony said, but I mean, I drove that on Tuesday, so I pay particular attention, but pretty much from there to Blueberry Corner, doesn't it have 80 signs, like a normal curve, bend, curve, reduce your speed to 80 anyway? Even though the actual limit's 100, they have those reductions there,
Yep.
so...
So absolutely, you're correct. There's the speed advisories around the curves,
Yes.
which. Yeah, sorry. The issue with that obviously is those aren't enforceable if police want to enforce them, and they also tend to be less effective at lowering people's speed. Yeah.
Councillor Puller?
Thank you, Your Worship. I guess people don't pay attention to the the real signs either. But my question really is, how do you want me to vote here, Your Worship? Do I raise my hand or keep my mic on? Or?
I think you can just keep your mic on, councillor.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I did have my hand up a while ago. Look, I think we need to go back to the original reason. I know that I actually put a motion on the table back then to go from Red Barn to 462, but the reason we talked about all the way to the corner was the sheer amount of businesses along that road. So you've got the turn off to the airport, you've got the Ngatiawa area there that has a huge amount of traffic that goes down that road. You come along, you have R&Bs, you've got Extreme Boats, you've got the hire company there, you've got a couple of other turn-offs. And if I remember rightly, there were statistics saying there were a few accidents. Now, when we finished that discussion, I remember a week later, there was actually an accident outside Extreme Boats where someone had pulled out. They ended up with 2 cars on their sides. And so one of the reasons why we said 80 to that turn-off is the sheer amount of turn-offs, businesses, etc. like that, and there had been a number of accidents outside Extreme Boats. So I'm just adding that in without actually saying which way I think it should go.
So that distance, Joe, would be how much that councillor James is talking about, roughly?
Give or take, probably around about 800 metres to 1,200 metres. The distance that would be covered between Red Barn and 463 Thornton Road. It's around about, I think, 800 metres, but I can verify that for you.
So the sorry.
Oh, sorry, just to clarify, because that's kind of was one of my questions, but I think what I heard Joe answer was the distance that now would be covered by the reduced speed limit. What I was interested in, what's the distance that Councillor James's amendment would take out, i.e. the distance from State Highway 32, the Red Barn? So, yeah.
Yeah, so just to clarify, so the distance between State Highway 30 and Red Barn is around about 2 kilometres, and then it's another 2 kilometres essentially through to the end of Blueberry Corners, so it's half.
So it's about half that distance. Okay, well then we have a motion, an amendment that was tabled by councillor James, that section be limited to that section. Okay, well, a new motion. Yep. We all happy with that? Okay, all those. What are we doing? We've come up with a new motion to replace 5, which is what you've proposed.
Okay, that's what we're voting.
Yeah.
From the Red Barn
To the
462.
Yeah. From 80 to 100 to 80. That's what I understand.
So changing the distance.
The distance. That's that section. Councillor.
So are we in debate now?
We are.
Thank you. I suppose the only thing that concerns me about the change is that we then have a number of different speed limits that are getting posted, and whether that people find that confusing. People don't always see the speed limit, so having a consistent speed limit, I think, is quite helpful. So I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure about it at the moment. I know we're about to vote, but I'm not quite sure but that's my main concern, whether just having a whole lot of different speed limits going through that stretch creates confusion for drivers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I feel like this has actually really been done to death.
Yeah.
We've done it in workshops, we've done it in the meeting. We appointed a subcommittee to actually go away and evaluate them all. after hearing discussion and feedback from people who are affected by these roads, I was very happy to accept the recommendations of the subcommittee that did it. And I just think to bring it up now is a little bit sort of disrespectful to a lot of work that between the subcommittee and the staff that have done. So for that reason, I will not be supporting the amendment or motion change.
I think that the council is entitled to raise an amendment, so we'll just vote on it. Any other, yes?
In talking to the same roading police sergeant, they were concerned about the continual changing of speed limits, as Councillor Tanshos was saying. I mean, one of the ones they were concerned about was a Hope Hill that went from 60 to 80 and then back down to 50. They would have preferred it was 70 all the way over. But as we discussed it in our road safety group, it was agreed that the camber and the road surface was dodgy, and so we'd go to 60 up there until we'd done some more infrastructure works on the hill, and then maybe we'd, so that's a later date. So he was happy with that, but I would agree with the fact that once you turn off at Thornton Road, you should actually keep it at 80 all the way through rather than speeding up to 100, down to 80, back at 100 and then back down to 70. And that's what they are opposed to. He was really in favour of Thornton Road, he's in favour of the Blueberry Corners, and so I will be voting against the change. I think we need to keep it where it was for the consistency.
Any other debate?
Can I ask a question of procedure? So, just to be clear, if this motion is voted down, then a new motion gets put with the original proposal, is that?
Yep.
And who will you put that?
Well, no, somebody else.
Oh, whoever, okay, all right.
I'm not in favour of any of them.
All right, thank you.
John.
Yeah, thank you, Bishop. I support the change to 80 round to Blueberry Corner only. Thank you.
Two things. One of them is, to me, we're reducing the speed just purely for the safety of Blueberry Corner. I take into account there's other businesses on that other stretch of road, but for 16 hours of the day, those businesses probably aren't operating. With the variation in speed limits, you're already doing 100 k's when you turn off State Highway 30 onto Thornton Road, so we're not changing the speed limit there. You're doing 100, you do 100 again up until you get to the windy parts, which is for safety, because we know there are known accidents up on the Blueberry Corners. Thank you.
Sorry. I'll take them both together that we approve and authorise the Chief Executive to sign all documents. All those in favour, say aye, please. Aye. Yep, it's unanimous. Seconded by Councillor Dennis, moved by Councillor Isles. Thank you, everybody.
Your Worship, if I could interrupt, I lost my sound, so what was the outcome of our previous speed motion?
We defaulted back to the original. It was defeated, the new replacement motion.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're now at section 8.5, recommendation from the IPC, adoption of the airport statement of intent. We're on pages 17 to 36 of the agenda. I guess there's no need for too much of a comment, but we're happy to move, are you, Councillor Isles? And Councillor Boynton seconds it. Any debate on that? No, I presume not. So we've got a motion that the Whakatane District Council approve the attached Whakatane Airport draft statement of intent for the period 1 July to 30th of June. All those in favour? Aye. Against? The ayes have it. Section 9 is page 37 to 55 of the agenda. It's my report. I'll take it as read and can answer questions if there are any. No, in which case can I ask for a mover and a seconder? Well, I'll move it myself, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. All those, any debate? None, I presume. All those in favour? Thank you. Section 10.1, local water done well, the one we've all been waiting for, pages 56 to 213 of the agenda. There is a tabled item which you should have all received. It's the feedback from the DIA on the draft Water Services Delivery Plan. On the face of it, it looks relatively innocuous, although there might be barbs in there. The wording is a bit guarded. David, would you like to speak to this, please?
Sure. Yeah, good morning, councillors. So the purpose of this report is to seek your adoption of the Water Services Delivery Plan for submission to DIA by early September. This is obviously the culmination of, at least a good year's worth of work, which involved both looking at initially 5 options, bringing those down to 2. We consulted on those 2, and the Water Services Delivery Plan that's drafted now reflects your decisions made in late June, which really was a mix of those 2 options. So those options, again, the proposal in the plan reflecting that decision is to set up a ring-fenced standalone business unit by 1 July 2027. So that would be the initial focus for staff and consultants. We need some help. But also allows the continuation of the discussions with Rotorua, Kawerau, Portaki and ourselves around a multiple CCO and whether the benefits of that longer term can be shown. It doesn't foreclose other councils coming into that conversation as well. So it's open in that sense. In terms of the plan itself, we gave a briefing to you a couple of weeks ago where I think we tried to outline, I guess, the reality of that plan. And just to touch on a couple of points around that, we are seeking to essentially amend the LTP during the process of the next LTP to increase investment in waters. That is to meet the investment sufficiency requirements under the new Act. And of course, there's a revenue impact on that, meaning our water rates will go up as a result. Investing more mean our debt levels do rise as well. As I think I said in the briefing, currently it's about $78 million worth of debt around our 3 waters. That heads up to just over $200 million by 2034. So it is quite an investment required. The impact staff-wise, there's 35 staff that we have pretty well in waters overall, plus others who, of course, support our waters delivery. In ring fencing, our services in the next year or so, we will need to come up with some formal relationships around time allocation and cost allocation to truly ring fence our services. So that's, there's a lot of paper there in terms of the plan itself. That's essentially what it says. I mentioned to you last time in the briefing that DIA did write to us mid-July, asking us to provide a draft water services delivery plan. And that was on the basis of a concern expressed around the decision to stand alone when they were looking at our LTP. And basically saying, look, you're not going to be able to meet your financial sustainability criteria on the current LTP. So we did reply to them. We sent them the draft and explained, I guess, the journey that we've been on in terms of re-looking at the work program, the assistance we've had in helping us get there, and how we now meet the requirements. So what you've just had tabled out to you is the feedback from DIA that came in on Monday. As His Worship has just said, generally it looks like a slight concession, but it does appear to meet the content in the Act, is the way they've put it. It does meet the content of the Act requirements, is the answer. They've laid out some points that we do need to clarify. A lot of it relates to our reconsenting program and how that might influence investment going forward and the certainty around that, particularly wastewater. And of course the answer to that is it's actually uncertain. The wastewater standards still haven't been finalised. We haven't actually applied for the consents yet, so the outcome through that process is a little unknown. What we have said in talking with Taumata Arawai and the Regional Council is that we will focus on getting compliant in our terms of our drinking water by 2028 as a priority, and then wastewater by 2032. And that's allowing time I guess that's the priority as we see it, and the way that those consents are likely to roll out. DIA in their feedback have questioned that, whether we can do the investment required in our wastewater earlier. And I guess our response to that, essentially they're saying we could borrow more, or even more, against waters and invest quicker. We will explain that journey to them in a bit more detail. I think it's quite a logical and, to be honest, a practical reality for us in trying to deliver those outcomes, that those are realistic timelines for us. Most of the other feedback, I think, is fairly minor, or relatively minor. And we have a plan set out to how we respond to that. Most of it is just simply adding a paragraph or two in relevant places and cross referencing sections. So I think we're reasonably confident that we can meet the feedback of DIA. From here, we submit the plan. DIA basically say yes or no. That's the message they've given us in terms of whether it meets the requirements or not. And we are starting to program, I guess, the implementation of the plan, assuming it does get over the line. There's an awful lot of work to be done next year and the year after, in terms of both ring fencing, just legislative requirements, and then that CCO conversation. So the other suggestion I just wanted to cover off is we are recommending a couple of amendments to a couple of the resolutions. That really is just in terms of the delegations we're asking for the Chief Executive, just to finalise the document, and just adding some words to reflect that it will be amended to reflect the DIA feedback. So just being explicit, I guess, about that there will be amendments for that purpose, plus any other minor amendments that we find along the way, corrections generally. Happy to leave it there, Your Worship. Happy to answer questions.
Thank you, David, and welcome to Andrew Horwood of Martin Jenkins. As you can see, he comes labelled, so I'm sure that either David or Andrew can answer questions. I do have one before the others slip in. The consequences of us not passing this today, for some reason, if that were to happen, what would that be?
Well, we are required legally to submit a plan by the 3rd of September. So you do put us into a very difficult position if that were to occur, simply because we've had extensive conversations and have set it up to be able to meet that timeline. And I guess we have a degree of confidence that DIA have not found any fatal flaws in what we're proposing. You consulted on two options. Really, our plan reflects those two options. They are the best of both worlds, really, in the way it's written at the moment.
Thank you, David. Councillor Isles?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just going on the outline that the GM has given us, where do we stand with regards I would say it's going to come into force, the rate capping that's intended by central government? This is indicating substantial increases to rates for our residents' ratepayers. If that rate cap comes into place, have we got a plan B?
At this stage, no, and I think I answered this last time, and I'm not sure if I'm up to the play with it, but my understanding was things like your core services, like Three Waters, wouldn't necessarily be caught by that cap, but I might be wrong there. So the answer is no, in the not knowing what the caps are and how they will work. We haven't factored that in. We've made a budget, though, that we think is affordable for our community going forward. So I guess we're trying to, we have to invest and essentially catch up with, previous lack of investment. We've kept it to as affordable as I think we can manage it. So I'm not sure if that answered your question. I'm not sure if the Chief Executive has any other knowledge about rate capping, but my understanding initially when that was proposed, it didn't affect Three Waters.
Can I just comment? These rate cappings that are being talked about, there's nothing locked in or set in stone as yet. So at the moment, as far as I can figure out, there is no policy. It's just an idea that's been floated. So we might not get there, but we'll see. Councillor Puller.
Thank you, Worship. Firstly, my understanding is that ratepayers will receive a separate invoice for that from the water identity to pay for that, as I understand it. But the question I had really of David is, we're going from 70 to some 200 odd million, and the word sustainability rolls around this whole thing. The charges that we're going to send out to our users will need to cover that, won't it?
Yes, it will. Yes, and that's, in terms of the analysis that's been done, what it's tried to show is not only what we have to invest in waters, but its implication on the rest of council as a result. And particularly the debt headroom is probably the critical factor there. So there is information in the document, and I think I gave it at the briefing as well, around where we get to in terms of that headroom. I think 2030 is where it peaks at about 246% debt to revenue ratio. You have a self-imposed limit of 250% at the moment, and you can go to 280%. So it does start to squeeze things in, towards that 2030 time period, but you do have some leeway. So, during the LTP, that will become a factor for you to consider.
So the water charges could be quite high in reality.
The numbers that we have, and again in the document, you pay, if you get all services now, about $2,000 as a resident. They will go up to something like $4,400 inflation adjusted by 2034.
Thank you.
Councillor Dennis and then Councillor Boynton. And then
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I've got a few questions, but I'll just start off with this one. The sentence you just referred to, Mr Bewley, on page 70, where it says that the average water charge per connection was forecast to increase from 2,000 in year 25 to around 4,400 in year 34. Yet in the paragraph before it, it states that similarly the operating cash surpluses are projected to increase from 5.2 million to 18.5 million. Well, I was just a bit confused over why you'd have a cash surplus in 2025 when we're in a deficit, but then why would it continue to grow the surplus when we're increasing the water charge connection per connection? That's my question. Why is that like that, please? Wouldn't the surpluses cancel out the increases?
I might see if Andrew's able to answer that one.
Yeah, I think DIA didn't comment on the operating surpluses, so I think they're pretty happy with how that's looking, and it gives the council some level of flexibility around meeting their the operating costs, including debt servicing and depreciation. So I think it's that they see that as kind of a prudent level to have that.
Thank you for that. Obviously, you're satisfied with that, but I'm really not satisfied as to why we'd have a surplus of 5.2 million, but then we're going to put up the rates. I've struggled with that, and actually in year 34 that we have 18.5 million surplus. I thought we meant to run a balanced budget. I thought we meant to not have surpluses, but maybe the staff could come back to us on that one.
Yes, and I think the other factor is that we do run an operating deficit for about the first 8 or 9 years under this model. And so I assume the surplus after that from 34 onwards.
But it says a surplus in 2025. Well, we're in 2025 now, so to have a $5 million surplus now when we're actually running a $12 million deficit, someone needs to explain that to us, please, in depth.
Yeah.
Maybe
Okay.
we need to have a workshop on that, I don't know, but that doesn't make sense to me. One of the other questions, if I'm allowed, Mr Chairman, is that if we ring, like we've only been given 2 options, one is to join a multi-council CTO or to ring fence the thing within our own council, and that's what one we've chosen. So if we have to ring fence it, if we have to have a separate set of financial books for it, say, are we going to send out a separate rates bill? Because it looks like we're going to have to increase our rating team, going by what this says in here. So will we be sending out a separate rate bill for the water?
Well, I think it gives you that ability to do so. I guess once you've ring-fenced, you know exactly the costs. The aim ultimately is, yes, you want to see that clarity on your water bills. So the intention probably is, yes, whether if it stays in-house, I think the idea is it's probably a separate bill, and a little bit the way you get a separate bill now for water consumption through your water metering.
Okay. Mr Chairman, I have a few more questions, but I'm happy to let someone else have a go.
If they're not related to the same thing, we'll pass it
Thank
around. Councillor Boynton, the Deputy Mayor, Councillor James and Councillor Puller, in that order.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you, David, for the really thorough report. Obviously, this is to be able to... It's good. On silent. It's not working. Yeah. It's good to hear that DIA initially is saying that it's meeting that part. I did have a couple of questions, but I just wanted to, my first question really is just to clarify, the costings of the setup of the entity, is that part of these costings that have been presented? This is solely for the operation of the services itself, so it doesn't include what the cost would be in terms of the setting up of the entity, does it?
No, we've had, because the preferred option, if you like, is the standalone business unit option.
Yes.
Most of the plan deals with that in terms of the financial modelling and assumes that's the way we're going to carry on, if you like. The separate conversation around a CCO and moving to that position still needs to be, the detailed work needs to still be done on that, including the operating and set-up costs.
Supplementary. So initially that's an external consideration that we still have to be mindful of in the whole LTP process that's coming up, in terms of trying to make sure we fit this cost into the LTP with those changes we have to make, and then everything else has to be sort of shuffled around.
Yep.
To make sure we maintain within, because we've got very little headroom in terms of our borrowing, is that correct? Or would the entity be focused from operations, or would it be looked at as capital? Sorry.
Questions there. Yes, I think, I mean, your LTP becomes quite a critical time period for this. So during the year 2026, the council's discussions around a CCO will all just flesh out. That will happen. And at the moment, late 2026, early 2027, is all the councils that have been talking will make a decision whether you wish to move to a CCO.
Yes.
If the decision is to move, we'll have set everything up to be ring-fenced by that stage on our own. then you'll have seen the modelling and the financial components of a CCO at that time period, and you would integrate that into your LTP or separate it right out. Because that's the other thing. If you're going to set up a CCO by 1 July 2028, it's at arm's length to everything else the council does, and will have its own strategy, its own budgets, its own asset management. So it's a pathway. That LTP becomes a direction where you either carry on the way you're going or you move into the CCO option.
Thank you.
Just a second. Councillor Dennis, were you requesting an action on staff to bring you back that information?
Yes, please.
Yeah, happy to do that.
Around the surpluses, yeah. Okay. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think I know the answer to this question. So with DIA providing us the feedback with noting some concerns, does this have any impact when the auditors come looking for our annual plan and our long-term plan?
Well, they were asked previously about where we, the direction we're heading with our waters. So yes, I would imagine they will. I think we're going to have lots of eyes on us. I would think once we get a plan approved, I think DIA, auditors, Commerce Commission, all of them will start to look at how we are implementing our plan and making sure we are implementing it as we have said. So I think, yes, auditors will be all over it through the next annual plan and certainly the LTP.
And just a supplementary statement, really. It's just noting concern that auditors often leave the smaller councils to the end of their evaluation cycle, and whether that's going to cause us a lot more problems.
So one of the work streams we've identified in implementing the plan is that relationship between the LTP and the Water Services entity, and the audit process would be one of those elements within that project.
Thank you. Councillor James from the Maroon team.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, David, for a pretty comprehensive report here. Just on page 60 under debt financing, we've got insurance cover for assets of 769 million. What sort of premium covers that cover?
Oh. Personally, I can't answer that one for you. Again, I can find out what our premiums are for our insurances.
I presume it's a reasonable amount, and I would start questioning whether we need to be looking at just self-insuring.
Just as an aside, I know we are starting to look at our new insurance covers coming up, so I think, I'm not sure, I assume that was reported through to Council at some point. I'll make a note of that and report that through to our finance team. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Puller.
Thank you, Your Worship. Really, for Councillor Dennis's benefit, the charges won't be a rate. There'll be a charge for water use or water delivery, really. So you need to think away from the rating area, Councillor. It'll be like the regional council send us a bill for whatever they do. So our water entity that's ring fenced will be a separate identity, and they will send a bill to each connection, is how I understand. Is that correct, David?
Yes, it will be a bill.
Water rate bill.
Yeah, yes is the answer.
Okay. Councillor Tanshos, I think, was next. Or did you not have it?
Actually, I was just going to respond to Councillor Dennis's question about the operating surplus. What I understood was that the cash surplus, there's an operating surplus from 2034, and there's a cash surplus generated earlier, and I think that's the difference is between the actual operating surplus and the cash surplus, just if that's helpful.
I have Councillor Dennis had some leftover questions, and then we'll come back to you.
Some of mine have been answered. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're all good. Okay. Councillor Boynton.
I suppose it's already there was a similar question before, but it was around has okay. Got the flashing. Just in regards, it's just asking that the budget includes, or the costings include, the contingency for compliance, because as you identified, the standards haven't been set yet on that work. So is there contingency inputted into those costings for having to go meet those compliance standards once those standards are set?
Yeah, probably not as explicitly as a contingency, as a normal project. I think, particularly in terms of wastewater upgrades that are required, there are lump sums that have been put into the budget. So we've assessed what we think we need to do.
Yeah.
But the number itself is, I know it's quite ballpark, but it's, so Murupara as an example is $30 million.
Yes.
Some others are 25 million. So they're rounded lump sums of money, an educated guess on what we think we'll need to do, as opposed to broken down with a specific contingency built into it. And as the standards are known and we apply for those consents and get through to what the solution is, obviously those numbers get much more refined. Yeah.
Thank you for that. And just supplementary, so following on from that, originally when we were doing our long-term plan, it said that our Three Waters was around about 460 million. These figures here for the cost of the services and these costings, so it looks at being about 220 million. Is that a reduction from that original cost, or no? It's just one small component of that 460.
Yeah, so the original figure was 440 million, and
Yes.
that was based on the needs assessment. So if we could do everything that our asset management plan suggested we needed to do within the 10-year LTP period, that's what we'd need. Simply couldn't afford to do that, so the budget ended up as 190 million or thereabouts in the LTP, with obviously recognising items would be pushed out further. What we're saying is that 190 really needs to be changed to 215 million to meet basic regulatory compliance over that period. So the regulatory compliance becomes more of a focus in the next 10 years, and the other projects start to get pushed out beyond that time period.
Just one more. And so just confirming the reduction from there, when it was scaled back to 190, that was to do with pushing out some of those projects?
Yep. Yes.
So it's basically, the work still has to be done, it will just now not be done as soon as it was going to be planned. Thank you.
As a general principle, that's right.
Yeah.
I think some of the projects probably have been looked at, further refined as well. Going back to that conversation about lump sums for big projects down the track. Yeah, but that's generally the answer, yes.
I have a question on timings, because, we've gone through a long-term plan from 2024 to 2034, and now we've got this water services delivery plan, which is largely consistent with the work program, but not completely. Then in 2028, we have to make a call on whether we go to a multi-council CCO. But in 27, we're working on a new LTP already. But if we decide, if the decision is made to a multi-council CCO in 28, then the entire work program could be scrambled, and because it will then be the decision of a different entity. How do you think that will play out?
Yeah, so I think through the LTP, you essentially will have to make your decision about whether you're heading towards a CCO. Remember, the legal test is that whatever we do has to be up and operating by 1 July 2028. So you have to have actually set it up essentially a year before, or be well on the way to setting it up. So your LTP, I think, becomes the critical decision point. You essentially make your call.
Right.
Yep.
Okay, thank you for that. Comment by the Chief Executive.
Just coming back to Councillor Dennis's question around cash surplus and operating surplus deficit. The table is on page 157, so it gives you the breakdown of that. And actually, if you jump down to the bottom, cash surplus doesn't include depreciation. So theoretically, if my maths is all right, you take the line across the bottom, which is the cash surplus, deduct the depreciation, and then you end up with the net deficit. So the action was for us to circulate some information, but I trust that all we would be doing is circulating this table. I wonder if we've just can delete the action, because that table on page 157 should answer that question for you.
Thank you for that. I would actually still want to explain to me a bit more, because I'm not going to suddenly understand it on the spot. Why then have we continued through there, and it's in a couple of places, not just one, it's about 5 pages down, it says it again about the surpluses increasing from this to that over a period of that time. It doesn't say there's 2 separate surpluses, it's increasing. Doesn't mention depreciation at all. So part of my concern is, if we're putting this document out saying surpluses here, surpluses there, why don't we explain it that surpluses minus depreciation equals deficit, to actually submit that to the government? I would have been confused if I was him, but still.
Andrew might want to jump in here, but the template is prescribed. So all we're actually doing is filling out the template in the way that DIA has requested the information. So that this is not actually set up for a general person in the street to read. It's actually set up so the DIA can receive the information and process it with their prescribed table. But I take your point, and I think all the staff in the room responsible for the area have heard, actually, when we're going out with some public information about this, that we're quite clear about the difference between a cash surplus and an operating deficit, what they actually are.
Maybe wrong words. Thank you.
Cool.
Okay, so councillor, are you therefore happy to take your clarification offline and not have a formal, you still want a formal action?
No, I'm not. Sorry, I want a formal, I want it actually not just in 5-second explanation. I actually want to have someone explain to all of us that whole process, please.
I mean, I'm sure we can do that via email.
Yeah, I was just going to ask that. Does everybody here want that action completed?
Or is that just something for
It's
councillor
just that
Dennis?
if it's just for you, then
I'm happy with the explanation.
So perhaps we'll just arrange.
yeah. Okay, so 1-to-1 or 1 to yes, councillor.
I just said, it's just as part of that explanation that's given to Councillor Dennis, is just explaining that the reason you're getting your cash surplus there is because of the revaluation of the assets. So every second year we're revaluing our assets. So that's the main contributor to the actual surplus. And that figure could change as well. So I think, as part of it, we probably might need to explain that process too.
So perhaps the action is for us just to follow up with councillor Dennis and provide some more information.
Okay, thank you. Are there any further questions? Yes, councillor Boynton.
I'd like a copy of that. If councillor Dennis is receiving information, I'd like a copy of that, please. Thank you.
All right. Are there any further questions? We have a slightly modified, not substantive, but recommendations, which you should have in front of you, I think. But essentially, the recommendations are: 1, to receive the local Water Done Well Water Services Delivery Plan for approval. 2 would be changed to, instead of calling it WSDP, that would be spelt out, so Water Services Delivery Plan. And then subject to changes as requested by the DAA and any other minor changes that might be required. So that's that part of that. There's also on recommendation 3, it would be changed to make changes as required by the DAA and any other minor changes to the attached WSDP. So
Happy to move, Your Worship.
yeah, it's just a change to the recommendation to clarify the DAA. If you can put them on the screen, yep.
Yeah, so the amendments to the recommendations were just to enable us to make the changes to the water services plan based on the feedback we've received from DIA, because it's a bit more than just minor adjustments.
Cherise will put them up on the screen. That's better. Not that we have much choice. If they request changes, then we would have to implement them anyway. So if we're all okay with that, are you moving, councillor? Yeah, mover, councillor James. And do I have a seconder? Councillor Tanchos. I'll take them all together. See any reason to separate them? Is there any debate? Well, we've sort of had it. Councillor Dennis.
I think as someone has just mentioned, we don't have a choice. The government is either forcing us to do it this way or go into multi-council setup. And if we do it this way, it has to be at their rules and their regulations, and we just don't have a choice. And so this is the best deal we can get, so I agree with it.
Yep. Thank you, councillor. Councillor Boynton.
Yes, just wanting to acknowledge our staff and the amount of work that has gone into this. Because we've had such a ever-changing and lots of question marks around the different pieces of legislation all attached to that, some of it still to be finished, and I think they've done a great job in being able to pull this together and also communicate it in a way to us as councillors so that we're able to step through to this point. So I just want to congratulate the staff on doing that. I also too, when I look at the words local water done well, it sort of makes me think, well, we're actually looking down this well and feeling a bit done because, you know, we've been locked into this place. We've got to try and look into the well. I don't know if we throw in a penny to see if we get our wishes met in terms of, you know, is something going to save us along the line? Are we going to have some kind of product that's going to come along and support us with at least some costs, even if it's administration? It's not looking like it. But at least I'm grateful for, you know, the members that we have around the table in ensuring that we look at the options carefully and that we're taking a measured approach to the entity, we're taking a measured approach along the way of where we have to do those changes, and we're clear about that. And I do worry about our whānau out there who will be going from, you know, $2,000 to $4,000 in rates. We already hear and know how much that is impacting them, but we also hear the realities of what we're dealing with on the other side. And unfortunately, that message isn't out there. People are hurting, they want to blame somewhere. Council is that little battering place right now. And yes, it's probably going to get a lot worse because of this information coming out, the reality coming out that having our three waters means that we have a $2,000 increase in rates. Not, you know, over time, whānau, just in case people think that's going to happen next year, but it is still a significant amount. So I hope when we look down this wishing well that we don't feel too done over, and that hopefully we can bring up some of that why and hopefully ensure that we have better services, that we have good quality water for our whānau.
Thank you, councillor. I mean, now that, since we're doing some government bashing, I thought I might as well jump in there. Well, I haven't seen anywhere in all of this the case proven that bigger is better. And really the crunch comes when you're defining your LTP, for, as far as I understood, for 2027, and it's really all down to the work program. So how big it gets depends on how big we make the work program. So I think crunch time is that LTP for 2027. But I would certainly like to see a solid evidentiary case. The bigger is better. But anyway, it looks like we're being forced to go down a certain path, and we don't have much of a choice. But this has to get over the line on the 3rd of September, and it would not be good for us not to do that. So, Councillor James.
Yeah, I'd just like to reiterate your comments this morning, Your Worship, in an email that you sent about how there isn't really a lot of local in this. Local water's done well. It seems to be all governed from Wellington and determined from Wellington. So, yeah.
Good sounding slogan. Any other comments? Yes, Councillor Rangiaho.
I'm not too sure whether I want to waste my time government bashing, but what I would like to spend time is recognising the decisions that we did make, the massive work that the staff has done, and we're still holding to, especially through their consultation process, to stand alone. And we're still maintaining that. It's just, I'm confident with the report that David has presented us, that there are only little things that we need to adjust inside of there, but absolutely agree, this is something that has been forced upon us as councils, but I really admire the decisions that we have made to still hear the voices of our communities. It's going to be hard and it's going to be a long period of time. So I think we just say this move forward, but thank you to the staff. That's a massive work. And really thank you fellas for that.
All right, folks, well, we've had our debate, so let's take this package all in one hit. All those in favour? Against? Thank you. Motion carried. I propose that we skip the break and we do the next item, which is 10.2 on pages 2, and thank you, Andrew, pages 214 to 226 of the agenda, and it's the dangerous, affected and insanitary building review. David, do you wish to speak to it? Oh, sorry. Hawaii will, okay.
Through the chair, good morning everyone. We take the report as read. The purpose of the report is to adopt the draft dangerous, affected and insanitary buildings policy. We received no submissions during the public consultation period, so no changes have been made. We now pass back to the chair for any questions.
Thank you, Hawaii. Does anybody have any questions on this item? Councillor Dennis.
So you're saying we haven't changed anything, so we're just reaffirming the existing policy?
No, we had a draft policy come through in May and that was approved for public consultation.
So in your own words, what are the main changes from the previous one?
MB had made some recommendations around clarifying some of the statements within our policy. So in effect, I guess the way the policy works or what it contains hasn't changed much. We've just clarified things really and made it a bit simpler and easier to understand.
Thank you.
Yeah, we did go through them. I don't remember the exact detail, but didn't look too substantive either. Any other questions? If not,
I do.
Can I have a mover and a seconder
I have a question.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Rangiaho.
Hi. When I was reading this report, I'm kind of concerned about homes in our rural area that are not quite, we have those little pockets of homes who may not have that system or in place. What does that mean for those ones who pick up cabins or pick up on their lands? We've seen different types of building structures that are coming on, especially in our rural community. Does that mean that they will be served a notice under this policy to remove that building, that structure or whatever?
In short, no. So typically those types of buildings wouldn't fall within the category that would be considered D, A or I, dangerous, affected or insanitary. It's quite a high threshold for these things. Typically council, so in the last 5 years, I think we've issued 4 notices under this policy. So it's not a policy that we reach for a lot or that we actually, I suppose, end up issuing a notice, although we might refer to the policy to give us some guidelines around how we might manage certain issues. But no, we don't intend to go out looking for these buildings. It's more a tool, I suppose, typically after a disaster, if a disaster hasn't been declared and we can't use other methods, we might use this policy to kind of manage those buildings.
Thank you.
We won't go looking, and there's a really high threshold for us to actually be able to enforce this.
Thank you.
Councillor Tanshaws?
Thank you for that. And so just as a supplementary, where we've used it before, what kind of cases would they be?
Yeah, so the last couple were following a weather event where we had a slip on Valley Road, and so there was one house there. We didn't declare a disaster, so we weren't able to use other methods. So, and that house was deemed to be dangerous, or the land.
Because of the slip?
Because of the slip.
Yeah.
There was also, just the other one that I recall, a house in Manawahei affected by flooding during the Gabriel period.
Yeah.
That was deemed to be dangerous, or they weren't able to live in the dwelling due to the damage.
Right, yeah.
So, yeah, quite a high threshold.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and often I think fire damage is the other one, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, if there are no further questions, can I have a mover and a seconder that council receive the report, the council adopt the policy, and the council note that no submissions were received on the draft policy? Mover, Councillor Boynton, seconder, Councillor Rangiaho. Any debate? No? All those in favour? Against? Passed. Thank you very much. Can I now... Well, we're now breaking for morning tea, and we will resume in public excluded. We can go through and do that right now. So before I put the motion, I'd like to refer to the tabled item that you should have received. That the Whakatane District Council agree to exclude the public from the following parts of the proceedings of this meeting, namely 1, Whakatane Airport Schedule Flight Service Registration of Interest ROI, 2, public excluded minutes of the Extraordinary Council meeting of the 9th of April 2025, 3, public excluded minutes of the Ordinary Council meeting of 26 June 2025, 4, public excluded minutes of the Chief Executive Support and Performance Committee meeting of the 20th of May 2025, and the public excluded minutes, 5, the public excluded minutes of the Risk and Assurance Committee meeting of 12th June 2025, and I won't read out all the details in the table. The resolution is made in accordance with section 48(1) of the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act of 1987, particular interest or interest protected by section 6 or section 7 of that act, or section 6, 7 or 9 of the Official Information Act 1982, as the case may be. Can I have a mover and a seconder for that? Mover, Deputy Mayor, seconder, Councillor Isles. All those in favour? We're in public excluded mode. We'll break for morning tea and come back in 15 minutes at 10:30. Thank you. Okay, so it's up to me just to restate the resolutions made. The two resolutions that I'm restating are that the council received the Whakatane Airport Schedule Flight Service ROI report, and two, that council confirmed the report be released to the public on the Chief Executive's approval. Thank you. Over to you, Councillor O'Brien, to close us up.
I wata te o tira ki ainu e tata kia taunga manaki tonga te maungaro i runga i tēnā mata. Kia mahe ai te ua makihiki. Toi te kupu, toi te manaka, ia toi ngā tikanga, koe ia te whakairihia e whakawātea. Au mie, wie, tai ki e.
Thank you to both teams.
Both teams.